Welcome to the Picture of Success podcast. Here we speak to outstanding mid-career professionals who have made their mark at a young age. Here you can experience the journey and the process that they go through and adapt the learnings so that you too can achieve your own dreams and purpose. And today in this show I have Dr. Jay Desan. Now, Dr. J holds a PhD or doctorate in sustainability and is also the co-founder of BoomGrow, a agro-tech startup that aims to reshape the future of sustainable environment farming. Its technology, called the machine farm, enables the right balance of flavor, freshness, and nutrition whilst creating a more sustainable approach to growing food. BoomGrow is Dr. J's convergence in her expertise and passion. She has always been a champion working on sustainability space to reimagine the world with a focus on agri-tech, sustainability advisory, and disclosure. Her deep passion is about integrating a better global food system through technology. And she is a subject matter expert when it comes to topics that are connected to sustainability, ESG, and food systems. In her words, sustainable food and growing is key to our home, our children, and our future. Dr. J, it is an honor to have you in the show.
The pleasure is all mine, Yazid. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's get this started. So before we move forward, right, Dr. J, maybe we should talk about a couple of things about yourself, right? I've known you in my professional career, and we've been in touch in the areas of sustainability, in the sense, right? But before we move forward, let's talk about a bit of yourself for the benefit of the audience.
Okay, so first of all, call me Jay. I wear a few hats, like a lot of women. I'm a co-founder of BoomGrow, which is an agri-tech company. I also provide sustainability advisory, ESG, particularly on sustainability disclosure, 18 years on that. Around 8 years, BoomGrow, growing startup with all the startup opportunities and challenges there that I'll be happy to share. I'm also a mom of 2 teenage boys. Fun fact, I'm a sports mom, so the boys play a lot of sports. Yeah, so soccer, badminton, any athletics. So Saturday morning, 6:30, they're doing a few kilometers, and then they play another 2 hours of badminton. So I'm the mom who has all the ice pack and the cool gels and everything. So that's us, and that's me.
That's amazing. I mean, I would have not thought that you actually have 2 teenage kids. You look young and you look very energetic in a sense, right?
But they keep me on my toes. Yeah, and I can tell you, even holidays, it involves 2 hours of tennis every day. So we are one of those sporty families.
Amazing. So, you keep yourself busy with your startup, with your the site at home and so forth and everything. But I do believe you've been quite a busy woman, not just right now, but throughout your career, right, Jay? And you actually discovered this thing about sustainability quite a way back, in the sense, right? And you actually built your career and expertise around sustainability way before sustainability became an agenda in corporate Malaysia, right? It was if you look at your career back then when you started, sustainability was not the main thing or a big thing that the corporates were focusing, right? So how did you actually discover this passion, and how did you know that this can be something big, something important moving forward in that sense, right?
Well, I'm someone who always believes when you give your work your authentic self, you will find your higher purpose. And that's always the case. And that's what a life is. It's about finding our purpose, our professional purpose or personal purpose. For me, it's sustainability. For someone else, it may be something else. And I found it quite early on in my career because my work led me to it. At heart, I would say I'm a researcher. I enjoy research. And when I started studying the notion of power, very traditional state accountability powers and things like that, realizing that actually corporate power, seen very negatively, needs to be controlled and managed. So this is 15 years ago. Then looking at it from a point of how can we create value? So by way of a master's, I started studying the notion of corporate responsibility. It wasn't anything then. When I started a PhD, it was still corporate in Queen Mary University of London, which was a great place to do because it was also very practical driven. So immediately I got access to all these companies in Europe. So started studying them and started looking at sustainability beyond minimum environmental compliance. How do we integrate that in a way that creates value? It wasn't called ESG at that time. There was no, they called it corporate social responsibility. There was no sustainable development goals. There was this thing called the Millennium Development Goals until the year 2000.
Oh,
kind of
wow,
thing.
that's a while.
It was so long ago. And whenever I went to conferences, like I would be the only person talking about this, even in Europe at that time, because it wasn't actually seen as mainstream, a mainstream agenda. And I'll give you a story where I knew that although it looks very hard from building a sort of a perspective that wasn't kind of mainstream, a lot of my time in London was spent in the basement of the British Library as well, looking for out of the library and be like, what, another one of those out of stock books, where it's like out of print. And so I had to go back to really look at the joint stock companies, the South Sea bubble, the early corporate trajectories, and because corporate sustainability today, if you really think about it, right, it's actually reimagining how we understand the rule, because shareholders' duty is profit maximization, but now we're saying it's for stakeholders. So that was a real shift. So I remember we were part of this whole campaign. This is 2007-6, right, in Westminster, campaigning, Labour government at that time saying like there needs to be change, and we needed to go to the politicians. So politicians anywhere the same, ineffective and slow. But we did then change 150 years of Companies Act. So that was the moment I realized when you bring, and it was a coalition of about over 100 NGOs, academia, smaller industry, big industry was against this because they thought it will change how we run businesses. And if you think at that time, Novo Nordisk talking about human rights, and maybe BP, Lord Brown talking about corporate responsibility. That was how far away it was, these kind of ideas to give you. So to build that kind of understanding, then coming back to Malaysia, it wasn't mainstream yet.
Right,
so
it wasn't even mainstream in Europe back then, right?
Yeah, but pretty soon the stock exchange got its act together. Bursa Malaysia made it compulsory listing requirements, and it has got now mainstream vocabulary among corporate Malaysia. But doing that work has been very rewarding. I've gone into the hinterlands of palm oil plantations, seen next generation EVs, gone and seen waste to energy plants. So fantastic exposure. And also I would say that led me to the current work I do, because I could see the disconnect in the food system, in what we talk about sustainability at top level, and then the actual implementation. So how did I find sustainability? I always say your work will lead you to your area and your purpose.
I believe the way I see you view life as like an adventure, right? And your life seems to be an adventure, even when you started dabbling in sustainability, right? And I think you did sustainability PhD back in 2008, and this is way before sustainability becomes an in thing, right? And I believe that it probably was an adventure for you in a sense, right? Getting from there to where you are right now. So can you perhaps talk about your challenges when you first started this, and and how did you actually face those challenges?
Okay, so I would say sustainability has been a key professional theme in most of the work I've done throughout the years. And it didn't start obviously with this box, sustainability in a box, because when I started there was no sustainability, there was no environmental social governance, no standards, measurements. In fact, my PhD was on standards of sustainability, and because it was at Queen Mary University of London, very much focused on the practical aspects of sustainability, so very useful in that sense, because I got to test some of these assumptions and ideas with some of the largest companies in Europe. And
Wow.
where I yes, and where it was very useful also was to see that, yes, it's challenging because you're actually, in a way, in the early days, it was corporate social responsibility. There was
Right.
no sustainable development goals. It was the Millennium Development Goals, that kind of thing. And the Global Reporting Initiative was being crafted at that time. This was 17, 15 years ago. And if you look at it that way, you think, oh, it's so hard. How can this be done? And we were against lots of lobbying, industry lobbying against this change to the Companies Act, the UK's Companies Act. And in fact, that was like reviewing the Companies Act and rethinking it for 150 years, which is the same shareholder primacy.
Right.
But it did happen, and the change did happen, and that really shifted a lot in me, because I was part of that moment where, we were NGOs working with academia, smaller industry, all of us getting together, lobbying in Westminster with the Labour government, at that time,
Right.
Tony Blair. So that long ago.
Oh, Tony
so
Blair,
that-
wow.
Yeah, that gives you a
Prime
perspective
Minister
of how long ago this was. Yeah, so, but it did, the Parliament Act was changed, and now directors had a legal duty to have regard to stakeholders. That was a huge shift in sort of the Anglo-American world towards corporate responsibility. But what that taught me personally is that you can make changes and you can bring a shift. It's not going to happen overnight. It will take time, but you need to build on it. It's like little building blocks. And you may think that small building block's not going to make a difference, but it does. It really, really does. Every thesis, every research, every lobby paper, every work makes all that difference. So that has been a key theme in my work since then, since coming back to Malaysia, building a practice around ESG disclosure. It has brought me to, it's what I've mentioned, hinterland of palm oil plantations, the latest EV vehicles, schedule waste to energy plants. I've been exposed to all that, assessing the performance in all these companies. So a very exciting journey. And it was also that journey that led me to see the disconnect in the food system, and how there's very little thought in terms of the impact of the food system, because food system is not just about food, it's the impact on the environment and the whole ecosystem. So that kind of thinking was still not there, not just in Malaysia, but globally, especially Asia. So that also led me to my work. So I always say, if you give your work all that you have, and in an authentic and meaningful way, you will find your higher purpose. And that's what life is. It is to find our purpose.
Exactly. I mean, what drives us is because of our purpose. And I like the fact that you had this one thing, right? Every little tiny bit of thing that you do contributes to that bigger purpose in that sense. But you can't see it at this point of time, right? When you start it, right? I mean, but I believe when reflecting to what your journey is, it's kind of like an exponential curve, right? I mean, you put a lot of effort into things that are nascent and new, and you just don't move the needle that much, but this does contribute to that big thing. And when it goes big, it's going to go exponential, just like sustainability, what it is in 2022, right? In that sense, right? In that sense, right? When talking about that sense, right? I felt that it must be quite difficult for you as someone young at that point of time to just be doing a lot of things, but not seeing the needle move, particularly in Malaysia, because it was so new, it was so up in front there, right? And how was the feeling back then, and how did you went through to it, and how do you remain optimistic and keep that traction moving forward into something that you believe, right?
That's such a great question, because, when you deal with this largest of companies and people who feel like, look, we've always run this is business as usual. And that at some point they have to move at sustainability as usual, which is like what you said. Today it's becoming almost very mainstream, and they understand there's no more question that they have to do it. But so quite some time ago, it wasn't the case. You just know, but when you have the, I always say this, numbers and data never lie. So when you have that, you know the trends and you know the facts and you know, and you've connected the dots, but maybe other people haven't had the luxury to do, then you need to not just plod on, but to be very sure you know how to drive deeper expertise in that area and kind of show the light. So in a way, it did help that the legislation moved, the listing requirements shifted. But at the end of the day, all that's, I always feel it's like additional things, because what really needs to happen is that mindset shift. That's the hardest, and that's where, as a sustainability advisor, I feel like is the main highlight of the work that I do and the kind of difference that we can make, and why you wake up every day, right? Because you feel that, look, if leaders of these large corporations make a difference, you can transform the economy, you can transform the lives of people. So that's very significant. Yeah.
And I believe that big experience that you went through, changing the life of people, changing the ability to change the legislation and so forth, and you can see the trajectory and trend. And this is what leads you to actually form BoomGrow, right? And with all your experience that you've gone through, so let's just now talk about BoomGrow. Actually, what is it actually, and how did you actually come into this innovative idea, right?
Okay, so BoomGrow is an agri-tech startup, and like what I said, it's always your work will lead you to your purpose, and BoomGrow is absolutely where I see the major shift or difference, not just in my life, but I feel like in the next trajectory of sustainability and thinking needs to happen, and disruption needs to happen in agriculture, because it's not, a lot of disruption has happened in areas like fintech or e-commerce, for example. But agriculture, so far, the biggest change has just been, some little sensors and little eco bling that you add and you think, oh, that's going to make a difference. But like what I said, look, to really make a difference, it really needs holistic ecosystem thinking. That hasn't happened across the world, and it slowly is. And controlled environment farming is the biggest change. Why? Among all the other innovation, food tech is also quite interesting now, like plant-based milk and all those kind of stuff. But with controlled environment agriculture, what BoomGrow is doing, we are moving farms into the cities where consumers live and shop. And why that's very significant, and what drove me to do it, is because all my life I've been working with data around carbon, around the environment, and could see the bigger picture. And this whole movement of food needs to stop. It cannot entirely be stopped, but if we can stop it and grow closer, grow locally, that will make a major difference, because not just the food miles, the carbon footprint, but it's also led to our food now being fit for shipment, not fit for consumption. So our food is today cloaked in pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, and all these toxic nasties. That needs to change. And we've taken it for granted because maybe, like my kids or your kids go to a supermarket and they think that's where the food comes from, in this plastic wraps, right? But actually the food needs to be farmed somewhere. And that
we live in an age of abundance, right? So we don't really care about these kind of things.
Yes, but when COVID happened, we realized that supply chain disruption, that we are not resilient, access to food democracy, all these things came to the fore. And BoomGrow is addressing each one of these verticals with our controlled environment farm, because what we've been able to do with our patent pending system, which took a long time, many mistakes, and until we landed on the patent, obviously, was the fact that we can grow, manage inputs, water, electricity, humidity, to then maximize outputs, because in agriculture, it's yield, it's traceability, transparency, those are the things. And the outcome or the impact is really sustainability, because we now use 95% less water. And that's very major, because agriculture is a very thirsty industry. In the heart of the city, 95% less water, 95% less shipping fuel, 360 times more efficient, because we stack vertically. So I would say very exciting times. Well, I'll tell you where we started. We started 8 years ago on a rooftop garden above Hero supermarket in town.
That's your MVP, I would say.
So that was, yes, that's right, early days. So we were so naive and we thought like we want to change the world, my co-founders and me. This is what we'll do, because supermarket down and then we'll farm up. Of course, not realizing that, look, the vagaries of weather, the rooftop farms can't be scaled. There are obviously times when it works, but a lot of times it's not scalable because of the vagaries of weather. Like, today you have storms in Klang Valley. You can't farm without any kind, unless you have a controlled environment to be resilient. Yeah, so lots of learning curves, lots of working out unit economics and all those kind of things to where we are today.
I like the fact that you're kind of like very experienced in startup, right? You've done this for 8 years in that sense, right? So for a lot of startups who just started, they said they always want to do this. I want to change the world. But then again, almost always time when you actually do the first thing, they experience the same thing that you experienced during when you had that first MVP at Hero, right? There's a lot of stumbling blocks in that sense, right? How did you get over that, and start always staying true to have this big dream and not giving up in that sense, right?
Yes. I think that's the secret sauce, right? Where the few things to the startup world. Some startups can grow quickly very fast. It depends on the industry. So you have to be cognizant of the industry.
Right.
For us, we are working with natural capital. R&D time, we cannot speed up whatever we do. We got technology, but at the end of the day, when we're dealing with nature, we still need to let our production go through the cycle. And if you make a mistake, then you go through another cycle. So that R&D time took a long time. And so you
takes
have
time for the plants to grow as well, right?
That's it. Then you're testing different conditions, different ecosystems for plants and things like that. So all that's what really took the longest time. So it's not that hard to was it difficult? The e-commerce, getting the customer traction was very fast, because once you have a quality product, you will get the customers.
Right.
But it is to validate your product and make sure that, look, this system that you are aiming for, that is what. And I would always tell startup founders that it always takes longer than you expect is one thing to be aware of. Number one. Number two, success is the ability to say no, right? Focus, because you have to be so focused sometimes. A lot of times there will be lots, especially when you're a startup, you attract a lot of attention. And you suddenly get a lot of interest, and there's always some shiny distractions. You must be able to say no to shiny distractions. Yes. Because there will always be somebody's investor's uncle's brother who says, oh, can you do this little cute thing in my house? Or somebody. So you must, as an individual, as co-founders together, and as a company, be very clear about what's our super strength. You must know your skill sets and what we want to do and what we don't. Actually, I think the biggest secret sauce is what you don't want to do. You must be very clear. Then it will be easier. That will be, but yeah, it takes longer than you think, and you must know your strength is my simple answer to that.
So it really takes, in a sense, that every startup or every small business that wants to grow, you really need to have a very clear purpose, a very clear aspiration in that sense, right? And that aspirations would guide you on what is the right path, and what are these distractions that you need to avoid in that sense, right?
Of course, it's a balance, because sometimes you have to pivot as well, right? I think with COVID happened, some people realized all their purpose or whatever they couldn't execute, for example. So then you have to scale, shift your focus and whatnot. But at the end, if a company is authentic and you have a product that actually meets the needs of your customers,
the product-market fit, right?
That's what it is. It is. Your customers will validate you. For us, our customers are all the 5-star hotels, and it wasn't too hard to get to them, because for them it was, is it a quality product? Can you meet our demands? Can you meet? And that was it. But to get to there was the challenge, to make sure we had that perfect product.
The product-market fit, in other terms, right? And I like the fact that you said, right, let's be realistic on the perspective on how to get the product market fit, right? And it may differ from one industry to another in that sense, right? Like e-commerce may have a different, have a faster rate to have a product market fit because they can iterate much faster compared to,
That's right.
you know,
That's right. Very
your
fast.
industry, right? So it really is about understanding your industry and setting expectation that aligning with what you are doing in that sense, right? I mean, like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right. Okay. I think we have learned a lot from you, uh, Jay. Um, I've got actually one last question. Actually, now, it's just like a summary of this, right? In that sense, that in the way you believe into things, and the way how you carry your startup, and how you view life as an entrepreneur in general, right? So, if you were to have the choice to put words on a billboard for the world to see, right? What would that message be?
Oh, that will be a day. Oh, that's quite hard though. Sort of one phrase. Can I have a phrase?
Oh yeah,
Or it's-
definitely.
oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. So I would say if sort of the fundamental philosophy upon which I survive or do anything is that every moment is a learning moment. That's it.
Every moment is a learning moment.
Every moment. You and me sitting here, it's a learning moment. We've learned so much about each other, right? And so
This is something
tomorrow,
that you can never learn in a university, right? In a sense, right? Experience.
and tomorrow you wake up, there's a mistake, something happened, and it's also a learning moment. And sometimes the success can be so astounding. We've got all this amazing success, but we have to see what are we learning from that success, because the next day you can also fall quite flat. So I would say that's sort of what keeps us, or keeps me thriving and resilience in the face of everything. Every
Right.
moment is a learning moment.
A learning moment, and every failure is kind of like an adventure itself. It's a learning moment and it's an adventure, so it keeps you trying to learn new things in that sense, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. Now, for those of our audience who want to know more about BoomGrow, or those who want to experience the BoomGrow product itself, do you have a way for them to actually experience this? Like, can they buy this in a supermarket? Which supermarket, or which five-star hotels are actually serving BoomGrow products?
Okay, so the easiest way is to go to our website and you can get it delivered direct to your home. Yes. So www.boomgrowfarms.com. Or you can also go for lunch in most of the five-star hotels, and you will see us on the buffet. You will see our tray, BoomGrow, on the tray at most buffet lunches and dinners. Yes.
Right. And you deliver to homes, right? I think this is, well, I have audiences outside of KL as well. This is within KL, Klang Valley as well, right?
This is Klang Valley. Anywhere in
Right.
Klang Valley, we've got sustainability principles, so we'll route you on specific days, but we will definitely get to you. And if you subscribe, it's free delivery. So pesticide free produce direct to your homes. It's so easy.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's free delivery, it's pesticide free, and you're doing one thing in supporting sustainability for our world and for our future generations. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Dr. Jay Desan, the co-founder of BoomGrow, a passionate mother to a sports mom, just someone like just you and me. And if she can do it, she can go through the challenges of doing something nascent, something new, and came out doing something great for the environment. You can do it yourself as well, right? So there you go, Dr. J from BoomGrow. And we are actually at the end of the show. I hope you like our show and you subscribe to this channel. I'm Yazid, signing off from this podcast. Have a good day ahead, guys.